The climate is changing increasingly rapidly. All across the world, temperatures are rising and the consequences are severe. Consequences that we are noticing in the Netherlands too, and which we want to act on. How does climate change work? Without the sun, the Earth would not be fit for life. It provides the heat and light that enables plants to grow. Greenhouse gases, especially CO2, are an essential part of this process. These gases absorb heat, preventing it from being reflected back into space. Agriculture, industry, motorized vehicles, and energy production cause an increase of CO2 in the atmosphere. This increase means that more heat from the sun is trapped, so that the Earth steadily gets warmer. The more greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, the warmer the Earth gets. And this is what causes climate change. Who is emitting greenhouse gases in the Netherlands? Over half of the greenhouse gases in the Netherlands are emitted during the manufacturing of goods and in generating energy. Traffic and the transport of goods are together responsible for 1/5 of the CO2 emitted every year in the Netherlands. Buildings are also sources of CO2 emissions. Heating and cooling consumes a lot of energy, especially if the buildings are not properly insulated. Agriculture too contributes to the greenhouse effect, among other things because cows produce methane when they belch and fart. Methane is a much stronger greenhouse gas than CO2. Finally, methane is released when dumping waste. All these greenhouse gases together contribute to global warming. The Netherlands is a small country. A large amount of greenhouse gases are emitted worldwide. We are trying to prevent climate change as much as possible by cooperating at the international level. Is a warmer world a problem? The climate has been changing rapidly over the past decades. Since the start of the Industrial Revolution, the Earth's temperature has risen by about 1 degree worldwide. In the Netherlands, the rise is actually 1.5 degrees. It is therefore getting hotter. A temperature rise of 1 degree has an adverse effect on one of our major basic needs, water. Hundreds of millions of people across the world are already having to cope with drought and ensuing water shortages, or floods caused by heavy rainfall. Hot weather is also causing health problems. If the temperature were to rise by 2 degrees, it would affect our food production. Harvests would improve in some places, but in dry, hot places they would become worse. 30% of all plant life would disappear. The same applies to animals. A rise of 3 degrees would result in the bleaching of most coral. If no action were taken, coral could become extinct. The risk of flooding would also increase. If the Earth were to become 4 degrees warmer, harvests would decrease across the globe. 30% of coastal areas would be below sea level and would require protection. And the changing climate would have an impact on health worldwide. If the temperature were to rise by 5 degrees or more, the consequences would be enormous. Many kinds of plant and animal life would be likely to become extinct. What are the consequences of climate change in the Netherlands? The effects of climate change are severe in the Netherlands. Since 1850, the sea level has risen by 20 centimetres. In 2100, this rise is expected to be 4 times higher. Combine this with heavy rainfall, heat waves and rising river levels, and we have a serious problem. That is why we're already taking measures to adapt the Netherlands. We can build higher and wider dikes, construct houses on poles in low-lying areas, plant additional trees to reduce heat. And we can take measures to prevent climate change. like shifting to renewable energy, building more wind turbines, and driving electric cars. By working together and reducing greenhouse gas emissions, we can prepare our country for the effects of climate change. What is the Dutch government doing? In its national climate agenda, the Netherlands is focusing on cooperation, adaptation and mitigation. By cooperating, we can combat climate change successfully, both in the Netherlands and globally. By adapting, the Netherlands can prepare itself for the inevitable consequences of climate change. And we are taking action to prevent climate change by reducing greenhouse gases, saving energy, and making room for renewable energy. And by shifting to sustainable industry, clean and efficient transport, and greener, more intelligent agriculture and horticulture.